Good morning, everyone. Ni hao, bonjour. I'm Jos Blériot. I'm the executive lead for policy institutions at the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. We're the co-organizer of this session with the support of the Chinese Association of Circular Economy. And I'm particularly delighted to say that this is the very first World Circular Economy Forum that has a dedicated session to the European Union and China collaboration on circular economy. We have been working on the ground in Beijing for the past 5 to 6 years. We obtained INGO registration as the foundation supervised by the Ministry of the Economy and Ecology in China. And we're very happy to be able to convene the European Union and the Chinese partners around this learning experience. Today is really about setting the scene and learning from both parties where they are in that transformation, and critically, what are the opportunities to collaborate further in order to accelerate it. There is definitely leadership on both sides. There's accountability and responsibility on both sides, and there's a tremendous potential also to develop markets, product standards. We can imagine a lot of things that could be possible with alignment and a willingness to move forward together. So I won't take too long because the speeches that we will have today will give you a good indication of what can be done. So the first opening remarks will be given by Mr. Zhao, Vice Chairman of the National Development and Reform Commission in China. The second keynote will be given by Astrid Schomacker, who is with the Directorate General for Environment at the European Commission, specifically in charge of green diplomacy and multilateralism. We will then go to Mr. Zhu, President of the Chinese Association of the Circular Economy, with whom we've had a very long-standing relationship on the ground in Beijing. And the final keynote will be given by Mr. Guan, our Chief Representative at the Beijing office in China. After that series of speeches, we'll move into another panel looking at supply chain specifically, which will be moderated by my colleague, Ms. Chen, from the Beijing office as well. So without further ado, if I could ask Mr. Zhao to take the stage and to give his opening remarks, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. 很高兴，出席呢2024年世界循环经济论坛中国循环经济发展实践今天这样一个平行的会议。与各界朋友呢，我们共同交流循环经济的发展实践，共话循环经济未来发展的大计。在此呢，我谨代表国家发展改革委，对会议的召开表示热烈的祝贺，对参加此次会议的各界朋友表示热烈的欢迎，对各方面为举办本次会议所做出的辛勤的付出表示衷心的感谢。中国呢，高度重视循环经济的发展。我们国家习近平主席多次就发展循环经济发表重要讲话。他强调呢，废弃物是放错了位置的资源，发展循环经济是提高资源利用效率的必由之路。近年来呢，我国始终把发展循环经济作为破解资源环境约束、应对气候变化、培育经济新增长点的重要的路径。我们强化呢顶层设计，而且呢不断完善制度体系，突出重点领域，培育壮大产业，走出了具有中国特色的循环经济发展的道路。为全球循环经济的发展呢，我们努力在贡献中国的智慧和中国的方案。我介绍几点相关的情况。第一呢，我们法规标准在不断的健全，制度体系呢 在持续的完善。我们颁布了循环经济促进法，出台了废弃电器、电子产品回收处理管理的条例等等一系列的法律规章和标准，构建起比较完备的法规标准体系。每5年制定实施循环经济发展规划，系统的谋划布局循环经济发展的重点任务，持续完善财政、税收、金融等配套的政策体系。我要介绍的第2点我们全过程的贯彻循环经济的理念，多领域创新我们的发展模式。中国把循环经济的减量化、再利用、资源化的理念，我们是努力贯穿在生产、流通、消费等经济社会发展的各个环节和全过程。在工业领域，我们全面推行循环型的生产方式，90%以上国家级的产业园区已经实施了循环化的改造。改造后主要污染物的排放削减了超过25%。在农业领域我们积极发展循环型的农业发展模式。去年，也就是2023年我们农作物秸秆综合的利用率超过了88%，畜禽粪污综合利用率超过了78%，农膜的回收率一直稳定在80%以上。那么在社会领域我们完善废旧物资回收的网络，提升再生资源加工利用的水平。2023年仅废钢铁循环利用我们国家就达到了2.6亿吨，为生产环节提供原料的占比超过了20%。这就是我们在具体工作当中的一些努力。第3个要跟大家介绍的就是我们循环经济产业在蓬勃发展，减污降碳协同的效益越来越突出。2023年中国主要资源产出率比2012年提高了60%，发展循环经济对减少碳排放的综合的贡献率超过25%，资源循环利用产业的产值超过3.7万亿元，带动了3500万多人的就业。第4是我们积极的参与全球循环经济发展的进程，广泛的开展多边和双边的合作。在亚太经合组织、在世界贸易组织等多边机制上我们不断的参与交流介绍中国推荐循环经济的情况。我们还发起全球以竹代塑的这样一个全球的倡议，有力推动塑料污染治理谈判的进程。我们支持举办世界循环经济论坛，开展中欧循环经济高级别的政策对话。我们还和美国一起成立了中美循环经济专题小组通过种种方式不断的加强多双边的交流与合作。女士们、先生们、朋友们，发展循环经济我们认为是建设美丽中国的重要举措，是实现碳达峰、碳中和的重要的途径。那么虽然我们做了一些工作，但是面向未来，我们将坚持在经济发展当中促进绿色转型，在绿色转型当中实现更大的发展。具体来讲我们要从3个方面来做相关的工作。第一是大力推进循环型生产方式和生活方式。我们将坚持节约优先，实施全面节约战略。在生产领域， 推进资源全面节约、集约、循环利用。在消费领域呢，会增强全民的节约意识，倡导呢简约、适度、绿色、低碳的生活方式。第二个方面呢，我们还会加快循环经济技术开发应用。我们将坚持企业创新主体的地位，深化产学研用相结合，优化科技创新生态，开展循环经济新材料、新技术、新装备的攻关，加快呢先进适用技术研发示范和推广。第三个方面呢，我们会健全循环经济的政策支持体系。我们将研究制修订相关法律法规，强化和完善呢相关的循环经济的法治保障，完善循环经济的统计体系，健全呢绿色设计、清洁生产、再生原料、立废建材等标准规范，为发展循环经济营造呢越来越好的政策法规的环境。在本次会议上呢，让我们看到全球这么多人都来参加这样一个世界循环经济的大会非常令人鼓舞。我们感到呢，循环经济正迎来更好的、前所未有的发展的机遇。我们将秉持人类命运共同体的理念，与各方一道，推动政府间、企业间、机构间开展呢多层次的务实合作，促成呢更多合作成果，努力为全球应对气候变化、推进绿色低碳转型贡献呢更多智慧和力量。我就讲这些，谢谢大家。Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zhao, and thank you for making the link with climate as well. The importance of the material side of the economy when it comes to circular strategies cannot be overstated. Could I please invite Madame Schumacher to take the stage and to give us a European perspective this time? Astrid.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Vice Chairman Zhao, for your words. I think we agree on many, many things. And thank you to the China Circular Economy Association and the Ellen MacArthur Foundation for organizing this session. It's really an honor to be here, and I think it's very important that we have this session and we talk about circular economy developments in the EU and China. We have a history of cooperation on circular economy already. We can and must step this up. I think both sides are committed to doing so. Importantly, the EU and China share the same vision, and the chairman has just set out this vision very clearly, so I don't have to repeat it. But we both believe that the transition to a sustainable, net zero, nature positive, and circular economy is not only perfectly possible, it is also necessary. And as such an economy will not just be an economy that is good for the environment. Looking at the global scene, it will also be a more just economy that will help us have more equitable growth across our planet. But if we were to say that the EU and China are frontrunners in the circular economy, that also gives us a unique responsibility. And in fact, I want to argue it's a dual responsibility. First of all, that we really exploit the whole range of cooperation opportunities, looking at the whole range of policies that we are implementing to make our respective economies circular. And secondly, and perhaps even more importantly, the chairman spoke about a circular economy with Chinese characteristics. We're developing a circular economy with European characteristics. The world should not have to choose between two circular economy models. Especially developing countries should not have to choose between two models. So it is important that we have one understanding of a global circular economy, that we work together towards it, and that we also team up internationally to promote it. We talk a lot in the European Union about the triple planetary crisis of climate change, biodiversity and nature loss, pollution and waste. We must internationally talk about it, and we must look at what is driving this crisis. And people who have been, colleagues here who have been attending this forum already yesterday, you've already heard a lot about the International Resource Panel's recent Global Resource Outlook 2024, that once again makes the case so clearly and so convincingly that it is our unsustainable consumption and production patterns that drive this crisis. The way we extract and process materials, the IRP has reiterated, is now causing 60% of climate change impacts that we see and feel already everywhere in the world, over 90% of water stress and associated biodiversity loss, 40% of health-related impacts. These are scary figures, and even worse, in a business-as-usual scenario, these trends are set to continue to 2060 with an accelerating growth pattern. But it's no reason to be scared, because we know what has to be done and what we can do, and everybody here in this room actually knows what to do. An urgent, fundamental shift away from the linear production patterns that are wasteful towards a resource-efficient economy where we strive to optimize well-being for all. Now, in the EU, as I said already, we believe that this change can and must happen, and we have set out to make it happen with 2 successive circular economy action plans. We are now basically coming to the end of our current legislative period, our current commission. We had an ambitious circular economy action plan. I'm pleased to say that we have implemented almost 100% of the actions that were foreseen. And I want to spend my remaining 2 minutes or so to just give an overview of the breadth of these measures that the Circular Economy Action Plan foresees, and therefore an indication of the breadth of possible cooperation between the EU and China in this field. And focusing perhaps particularly on what we were concentrating on in the second action plan, and that is the whole life cycle of products. Here, in particular, our eco-design for sustainable products regulation, we have been looking at how to improve product design. Many of you will know that whether or not and how much waste we have and how recyclable or reusable a product is depends on how it is designed. So we need to come together and look at the design phase. And we need to make sure that the entire economy can become an actor in this transformation, and therefore we need transparency. So we have developed the idea of a digital product passport that would accompany products so that everybody can participate and know about the characteristics of the product, notably and in particular also those at the end of the value chain, so that you know if it is recyclable, how it is reusable, and that this becomes also economically viable. And we've also focused on specific value chains to see how we can accelerate the transition there. We are looking particularly, and I think all of us know why this is important, at packaging and packaging waste. And maybe it was also COVID that made us all use even more packaging, because we became more digital in the way we were obtaining our goods. So we need to look at the waste that we are creating through inefficient packaging and packaging waste. We have updated our regulatory framework for batteries. We now have requirements for sustainability, for safety, for labeling, for the end-of-life management. Due diligence obligations in the battery sector are also about to kick in. But despite all of these achievements, and I want to come back to that in closing, the work and the commitment of the EU are only part of the story. Without a global effort, the radical change that is needed against the triple planetary crisis to tackle that crisis cannot be achieved. Therefore, the EU wants to work with partner countries. We're doing that in a variety of fora in the Global Alliance for Circular Economy. We're members of a number of regional alliances that have been set up, and we are now coming together here again to step up our cooperation also with China. Last September, we already held the first high-level policy dialogue on circular economy, which could look already at a number of technical cooperation streams that have been ongoing since we concluded our Memorandum of Understanding on 2018, and we said we need to now continue, scale up, and bring this cooperation to a higher level. But be it bilaterally, be it in the context of the G20, and most importantly, perhaps, now we have ongoing negotiations on the global plastics treaty. We need the EU and China to be the driving forces for this agreement, make that a circular economy agreement, demonstrate how that can work, and come to terms with plastic pollution that, I don't have to tell you what plastic pollution does to the planet, to our ocean in particular, to our wildlife, but also to human health. We all know it can be done, it must be done. It's a transition that we want to lead together, and I think from the EU side, we very much look forward to doing that together with China. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Madam Schumacher. Thank you for being specific on the policy instruments and the opportunities for development, as well as to showcase the European Union's willingness to advance this topic on the diplomatic level. And it is indeed an important part of the Circular Economy Action Plan that was adopted in March 2020 to have that international cooperation. So now we're going to go to Mr. Zhu, President of the Chinese Association of the Circular Economy, who will give us some best practices from China. Thank you.
尊敬的赵成新副主任、刘德春司长、万庆副市长，尊敬的肖梅克司长，各位来宾、女士们、先生们，大家上午好！非常高兴参加2024世界循环经济大会，并与艾伦·麦克阿瑟基金会等机构共同主办本次平行分论坛。今天我们非常荣幸地邀请到了中国国家发展改革委赵成新副主任、环知司刘德春司长、国际司万庆副市长。我代表中国循环经济协会向各位嘉宾的到来表示热烈的欢迎和衷心的感谢。下面，我结合我们协会开展的主要工作，与大家进行交流。首先，向大家分享中国发展循环经济取得的成效。长期以来，中国政府把发展循环经济作为经济社会发展的一项重大战略。刚才赵成新副主任把中国实施的循环经济的重大国策向各位与会嘉宾做了详细的这个介绍。那么，作为我们保障国家资源安全、加快转变经济发展方式、促进生态文明建设和生态环境高水平保护的重要路径，取得了十分显著的成效。这里有一组数据分享给大家，与2012年相比，2022年我们中国主要资源产出率提高了近60%，单位 GDP 能耗下降约26%，单位 GDP 水耗下降约46%。近10年，中国综合利用大宗固废约280亿吨，回收利用再生资源约28亿吨。2022年，大宗固废对原生砂石资源的替代率超过了50%，再生有色金属约占有色金属总产量的25%，再生纸浆约占纸浆总产量的70%，再生塑料约占塑料制品总产量的20%。“十三五”期间，发展循环经济对中国碳减排的综合贡献率超过了25%。其次，围绕国际社会普遍关注的领域和我们协会配合中国政府部门开展的重点工作，分享一下一些典型的实践。比如，在塑料污染治理方面，中国充分贯彻循环经济理念，实施塑料污染全链条治理，在生产和消费源头对容易向环境泄露的一次性塑料制品进行有效管控，推广替代产品，在废塑料回收处置端加大再生利用的力度。数据显示，2023年，中国废塑料材料化回收利用量达到了1900万吨，材料化回收率约31%，是全球平均水平的1.74倍，并且实现了100%本国材料化回收利用。同时，行业企业也在积极探索废塑料的化学回收利用。在废旧纺织品回收利用方面，中国政府聚焦生产、回收、综合利用3个环节，出台了推动废旧纺织品循环利用的具体措施。行业企业探索形成了互联网回收、品牌回收、再生资源回收、生活垃圾回收、公益慈善回收和民间传统回收等多种回收模式。回收形式以线下回收箱、 和线上预约上门回收为主。目前，中国每年回收利用废旧纺织品400多万吨，利用废旧纺织品再生纤维产量约170万吨，废旧纺织品循环利用率达到了22%以上。在废旧动力电池循环利用方面，中国发布了一系列行动力电池回收利用的相关政策，明确由汽车生产企业承担动力电池回收的主体责任，鼓励梯次利用企业与新能源汽车生产、动力电池生产及报废机动车回收拆解等企业合作开展废旧动力电池的回收。在电池拆解、材料分离和再生利用等关键技术方面已经实现产业化。行业龙头企业，我们邦普循环格林美等，基本可实现动力电池关键核心原材料的重复利用。在二手商品循环利用方面，中国政府鼓励二手电商发展，行业企业积极探索，行业的规范化和标准化程度越来越高，有效促进了闲置资源循环流转和再利用。比如，中国闲置商品交易领域的头部企业转转集团，通过建立完善的质检、质保和售后履约服务，有效提升了消费者对闲置资源交易的接受度和信任度。数据显示，2023年中国二手电商交易规模约5500亿，用户规模超过6亿人次，二手手机交易量超过了2亿部。最后，借此机会，针对循环经济国际合作提几点建议。循环经济已成为主要国家对外交往的重要议题。中国政府已与欧盟、美国、日本、德国等建立了合作机制。我们协会长期配合服务政府部门开展循环经济的国际合作，陆续与比利时、荷兰、丹麦、芬兰、美国的驻华使馆、艾伦·麦克阿瑟基金会、自然资源保护协会、能源基金会、世界经济论坛等国际组织建立了交流合作。通过组织和接待国际商务考察、举办国际论坛、研讨会、技术对接等活动，分享实践经验，推动中外企业建立商贸合作。这次我们也组织了10多家中国企业参加本次世界循环经济大会。会后，我们还将吩咐芬兰、德国和匈牙利进行实地考察和交流，希望大家都能够有所收获。在这里，我也建议世界各国进一步加强循环经济的合作，以是加强重点领域的对话交流，围绕国际社会普遍关注的热点问题，如塑料污染治理、废旧动力电池循环利用、再制造等，开展更深入的交流引导和经验分享。二是积极推动标准和规范的国际互认。经济全球化是世界发展的历史大势，循环经济要紧跟时代潮流，建立国际统一的标准规范体系，降低国际合作的壁垒。三是为全球循环经济企业搭建国际合作的平台，在循环经济技术创新、投融资、人才培育等方面共同搭建合作平台，为企业提供国际合作的机会。谢谢大家。
Thank you very much, Mr. Zhu. And I think the call for collaboration has been well heard, and it's very important to be made in such a setting such as the World Circular Economy Forum. Yi Songguan, who represents the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and is the head of the Beijing office, will take the final slot for these keynote opening addresses.
Dear Vice Minister Zhao, Director Skolmik, Director General Liu, Director General Wan, Director General Pearson, and Mr. Zhu. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to have a opportunity to introduce how international collaborations have been support circular development in China, and also introduce the opportunity of the circular economy between China and Europe, which based on the foundation's 6 experience working in China. The common ground between China and Europe is that both its economic growth of both highly depends on importation of external resources. This is why the two regions are the earliest in the world that promote circular economy through legislation. When you see the timeline of the major policy and the milestones of the between China and EU, you find that each regions that develop their own circular economy policies actively, and the intensity of the circular economy policy has been increasing rapidly in the past years. China had made great achievement of circular economy, which has been introduced by Vice Minister Zhao and Ms. Zhu. And China, the industry part of the circular economy has became more and more normalized in China. And here I'm going to present some of opportunity of China of circular economy. The first one that more and more city government has been working hard to issue the relevant policies and build infrastructure toward the vision of zero waste. And China has built a strength of its value chain with a competitive price and a quick adaptation to changes, which means that when there's a need for circular economy and need to make change, the value chain in China could adapt quickly with also the most affordable prices. It is also key in some area that value chain is shifting to the emerging countries from China, because China has its strength. We need to leverage China's strength of circular economy and experience to help these developing countries, because these countries they are lack of the experience and awareness of circular economy. When we look at the future, it is really necessary for China and Europe to further strengthen the international collaboration. China and the EU should work collectively together to build alignment and lead the global transition. Because both regions that we have been the driving force of circular economy in the past, and gain respective experience that can help the world. And we also need to make more policy dialogues in different regions regarding new regulations and standards, such as ESPR, because the new rules in Europe not only impact the business in Europe, but also impact its value chain stakeholders in China. We should provide more enable conditions for circular economy, rather than make circular economy as a barrier for trade. And the last, that we also need to stimulate more collaborations between business. China needs Europe's advanced technology and equipment to improve its infrastructure, while Europe needs China's strength to deliver its strategy of circular economy and products. And there's a new areas that we can collaborate and explore together, such as retired renewable energy equipment, wind blade, and solar panels, and also EV batteries. The China program of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, we have been working hard to inspire the local stakeholders with the upstream innovation ideas, help to shift the mindset of circular economy from downstream to upstream with design. And we facilitate policy dialogue and to create more enable conditions. and we try to change the business practice with localized insights, initiative, and also events. Here present some of our work and activities in the past and in the coming years. And if you are interested, please contact. We are looking forward to collaborate with you. In my view, the world has entered a rebalance stage since the pandemic. Competitions on limited resources are one of the key reasons behind that. Developing circular economy is never more important than now. And a well-established circular economy framework can also help the countries to balance and share the value of products and services we create together. Let's work together toward the vision of circular economy and recreate prosperity for the world. Thank you.
Thanks, Yi-Song. Thank you, Yi-Song. Without further ado, and in the interest of time, I'll ask my colleague Xiaoting Shen to come to the stage and introduce her panel on the importance of supply chains.
Thank you, Jos. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our panel discussion. It's really inspiring and encouraging to learn all of China's great progress and achievement just now, and also setting the scene for our next panel discussion, where we are going to explore the circular business action taking place in China. Today, we have a really great, distinguished group of speakers coming from various backgrounds and sectors who are also at the forefront of driving the circular economy initiatives in China. So now let's welcome our speakers coming to stage. Paul Scahan, Global Vice President of Public Policy, Government Affairs and Communication, PepsiCo. Zhang Xiaobo, Director for Corporate Affairs and Strategy, Veolia China. Paul Sanchez, Policy and EU Affairs Director, CATL. And finally, Wen Hua, Project Director, Energy Transition Project, Natural Resources Defense Council of China. I think. Welcome, gentlemen, to our panel discussion. Okay. Yes. So my first question is really just more generic. I would like to invite each of our speakers to provide a very quick overview of your business focus on circular economy, particularly your initiative and actions in driving the circular business model innovation as well as value chain collaboration. So let's start with Paul. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You.
Good morning, everyone. Paul Scahan with PepsiCo. Try and keep this brief. PepsiCo, you probably know, but many of you will associate it with Pepsi, which of course it is. But we're a larger food company than we are a drinks company. So Doritos, Cheetos, Lay's, all of those are our products as well. SodaStream, Alvale, Quaker Oats, all parts of the PepsiCo portfolio. We're in about 200 markets worldwide, all of Europe, in China as well. We have about $91 billion sales a year. We've been in China more than 40 years. In fact, we built our first plant in Shenzhen in 1981. And over the last 10 years alone, we've invested 53 billion renminbi in various plants there. We have 20,000 associates employed directly. We indirectly support about 170,000 people in our supply chain, in the farms that supply the products. And in all the services that we buy in China. And let me finish by just saying, in 2021, PepsiCo adopted PepsiCo Positive. It is an attempt to transform the way our company works end to end, from the farming community from which we buy all our potatoes, corn, oats, etc., right through our own products, right into distribution. And it's really a transformation of the company. In order for that to happen, we continue to need total support from politicians in Europe, also in China, in terms of the supporting policies that are in place. Without those policies, we will not achieve the objectives that we've set for ourselves. So, to state very clearly, we support the EU Green Deal. We want it to continue in the new administration that starts later this year. And we support very much and are very happy to continue working with the Chinese government and DRC and others to make sure that our activities there are also supported and that we can continue to develop with the circular economy. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul, for your quick introduction. And it's very great to learn all of those long-term commitment of your company into China. So the next question will go to Xiaobo regarding Valeo. We know Valeo China is also a leading provider committed to the waste management and operating for so many decades already. So tell us more about your highlights with the circular economy business in China.
Okay, thank you, Xiaoqing. And I believe every one of you know about Veolia. Veolia is the top one in environmental services companies in the world. And I'm not sure that how many of you have to pay, the water tariff to our group. Yeah. And but yes, as the world leading environmental services company, we entered China very early in the 1990s. And through its water business, and then through the next about 2 decades, we have expanded our business to water, to waste, and to energy management. And so today, if you look at the business in what we have operated in China, we have around 100 projects in more than 40 cities. And if you look at the business in China, we can see that China is a very open market. And we can see the huge similarity between what our operation in China and in France and in Europe, especially in circular economy, because as just the guest said, that we can see that the policy of circular economy in China has started very, very early. It can be dated back to the early 2000s. So then our business of circular economy comes after that, and then today our business in circular economy could include in water reuse, wastewater reuse for industrial and for municipal clients, and also for our waste recycling, including plastic recycling, and we also have WCEF. And we also have battery recycling, especially in recharge EV battery recycling, which is a very hot topic in China right now. So yeah, so I think that's it.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Xiaobo, for your introduction, because we know China already attached a great importance to the waste management side, and we just learned earlier this year that China also issued the construction of the recycling system to facilitate all this transition. Right. So we know there must be a lot of opportunities ahead, and we can expect that. So my next question to Paul, next to me. So we just heard as well in the beginning and the introduction that China has attached circular economy as a key measure to address many of the challenges right now, especially with carbon targets. We know how circular economy can play the role in the transition to the renewable energy, as well as the effort to improve the resource efficiency. So we know CATL is leading a lot of areas in this area, not only in China, also globally. So what's your story of that?
Thank you very much for the question, and actually thank you very much to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and to the World Circular Economy Forum. For us, it's a pleasure to be here. I recently joined CATL, so 1 month before, so sorry if I'm not very detailed in my explanations. Anyway, I wanted to stress that CATL is actively engaged with the rapid development of China's circular economy, recognizing actually the vast opportunities it represents. And actually, we have been in the Chinese market for a very long time. We're a Chinese company and so on and so forth. And we're very, very happy with the different investments, the different clear technologies that we are developing there, and the different innovations. And to give you one example, I would like to highlight the zero carbon gigafactory in Jibin, in Sichuan province, which by 2030 will have around 150 gigawatts, which is quite impressive. If you don't believe me, you can go actually to what we have in the EU set up for new gigafactories. The biggest one will be like 100. So we are talking about 150 by 2030, which is like very, very impressive, I would say. I would like also to mention that a couple of months ago, we have issued our CATL ESG report of 2023. This is the version for now is in Chinese, but we are translating it and it will be in English. So for those ones that you speak Chinese, please go and check it out because it's quite also impressive. And we believe actually, we're a battery company, of course, very big one. We believe that one key thing for circular economy is recycling, right? And I'm going to give you a few numbers of what we have been doing in China in 2023. So actually in 2023, we recycled around 100,000 tons of used batteries, which help us to reproduce 13,000 tons of lithium carbonate. And the recovery rate that CATL has achieved in 2023, it's pretty impressive, with 99.6% for nickel, cobalt, and manganese, and 91% for lithium. And to give you a bit of the perspective for the comparative numbers, if we go to the EU batteries regulation, which was approved in July 2023, it sets up some thresholds. So it sets up thresholds for the recovery rate of lithium of 50% by 2027. I said that last year we recovered 91%. And the same battery regulation also set up 80% of recovery rate for lithium in 2031. I'm going to repeat again, in 2023, we already had 91% of recovery rate of lithium. All to say that we have the technology and we are very, very happy to keep actually with the innovation and to actually keep expanding. Thank you.
That's exciting to know. And one point to note, I'm encouraging everyone to download the ESG report from CATL. Maybe we can learn more. Thank you for that. And Wenhua, I'm come to you because I think we heard like the business actions, and that's kind of very exciting. And as NRDC China, similar as EMF, we, as an international non-governmental organization, what's the role you think we should take, and how we should facilitate the cross-value, stakeholders collaboration in driving the transition? Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. Very excited to be here. So I came from a nonprofit organization, Natural Resource Defense Council, and we're pretty active in the field of climate energy policy for over a decade. But it was not until 2 years ago my organization started to seriously strategize how we can actually leverage the power of circular economy to help China and other countries to deliver their climate commitments more cost effectively. What brings me here today is a joint research project we did with the Chinese Association of Circular Economy. Together, we are looking into circular solutions to decarbonize China's aluminum and steel industries, which collectively contribute approximately 20% of the nation's greenhouse gas emission. I'm sorry. So compared to the conventional process of metal production, which requires mining and smelting and lots of energy consumption, recycled metals offer an alternative approach for China to meet increasing demand, but with a much lower carbon footprint. Recycled aluminum, for example, can reduce carbon footprint by 95% compared to producing the same amount of primary aluminum. And based on our analysis, if China can increase the use of the recycled aluminum by 50% between 2020 and 2025, which is very likely to happen. And so by this action alone, this can reduce up to 100 million tons of carbon dioxide, which is pretty much the total emission from the country of Netherlands. So this is an area with huge potential to tap into.
Well, that's great to learn, actually. Well, thank you all for the first round sharing. It's really truly inspiring to hear all of this progress you have just shared. And building on this, I'd like to dive deeper into the challenges and the opportunities ahead of us. So in your view, what are the primary challenges we need to address to further unlock the transformative potential of the circular economy in China? And since we are here on this international key platform, so what do you foresee the international cooperation playing a role in overcoming those kind of challenges, and maybe could give us share a little bit light on your suggestions? So let's also start with Paul. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. I have one request, actually, and it's linked to plastic. You can imagine, so I mentioned, $91 billion of sales from PepsiCo every year, all produced and then packaged because, you need to keep the product safe and fresh, and so that's sent around the world. In all countries that we operate, we try to reduce the amount of plastic that we're using, the amount of packaging that we're using, and where we can't reduce it, we then try to recycle it or reuse it or whatever. In Europe, for instance, in 13 different markets in Europe now, our Pepsi brand is only sold in recycled PET. It's the major, so it's the plastic bottles that the PET is what's used in it. It's only recycled plastic that we use. The greenhouse gas emissions linked to recycled plastic compared to virgin is significant. It's about a 40% saving. So we're very keen in terms of the ambitions that we have within PepsiCo in terms of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. The use of rPET is a very significant factor in that. And as I mentioned, in Europe, we're in 13 different countries. Around the world, about 31 different countries. In China, we don't produce or sell any of our beverage brands in recycled PET because it's not approved for food contact materials. And so it's not that the system in China doesn't work. It's an extremely efficient system for collection. A massive amount of plastic is collected. And in fact, beverage bottles that we use and sell in China, about 94% of all beverage bottles are collected and recycled. It's just that the recycled PET is not allowed to be used back into bottles. And so we're continually having to buy virgin PET, produce the bottles in virgin, and sell them in the Chinese market. There are really efficient processors of rPET, but any of the rPET bottles that are produced in China have to be exported for use. And so it's a very straightforward request, and that would be to the Chinese government to please consider the use of rPET for food contact materials. We believe it's extremely safe. It's approved, as I say, by food safety authorities everywhere in the world. We understand in China that there's been a lot of work recently to prove the safety. We understand there's fairly high consumer acceptance of the use of rPET. And so for us, that would be a massive unlock, good for China, good for PepsiCo, and good for the circular economy. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Paul. It's interesting to hear you bring up the recycled plastic issues because we understand this is also a topic gaining the momentum on the local market discussion, and we expect to see the further development of that. Okay, so Xiaobo, what's your perspective on this question?
Okay, so thank you, Xiaoqing. And you mentioned about two things: is challenges and opportunities. So
yes.
Let's start with opportunities first,
Sure.
because I'm based in China, and I know that China has made a lot of progress and achievements already. Especially that the circular economy law was launched in the early 2000, and most recently, and China has launched a grand trading program. It's called 以旧换新政策. So it's so I think it will be very helpful to push for further development of circular economy, and so that's the bright side. And we can see that the market is already booming, especially in plastic recycling, and we can see the huge demand of retired EV battery recycling, and that is also very challenging. And I know it's very is challenging, but also it is more encouraging for now. But also, I agree with Paul fully, because we have a plastic recycling project right now in China. And yes, and our technical capacity is able to produce food-grade rPET, and we are able to export them to the EU and to the America. But very sadly, for now we cannot use it within China because the policy did not approve that yet. But we are very hopeful for that, because as I just say, China is a very big market, and we can see that China has been very serious in launching more circular economy policies. So what we have is the confidence in China. That is why Veolia has 3 strategic priorities in China right now. The top one is circular economy, and the second is decarbonization, and the third one is depollution. So that is why we have to be very optimistic about what we will do in China, and I think that we can do more in international cooperation also as well. Yeah.
That's really great to hear, and I like the word optimistic, because we do see a lot of potential and opportunities ahead of us, and we are fully convinced at the current 14th Five-Year Plan, and we can expect further, through the new launched emerging policies in the beginning of this year. So let's hope for that. Paul, so CATL, as I mentioned, is leading the new energy innovation in many ways, and not only in China, you also have the presence in the Europe, as well as how you are in the middle to bridging the China-EU collaboration. What's your opportunities and foreseen, share us with that.
Thank you very much for that question. Actually, I would like to take a few things that my previous keynote speakers raised, such as the director Shoemaker or Mr. Zhao, in the necessity of enhancing cooperation in order to go to that, let's say, that Green Deal goal for being completely carbon neutral by 2050. So that, let's say that I would say it's something to keep working on, and I would say it's very important. Of course, one of the main challenges actually of circular economy, as I've mentioned before, is recycling and basically enhancing recycling processes and infrastructures. Because actually recycling plays a crucial role in reducing the environmental impact of production and consumption cycles. And here I have to say that CATL commitment to circular economy and to achieving these goals, it's a clear bet, and we prioritize this kind of use of low carbon materials and key focus on renewables. And actually we announced some months ago that we want to achieve carbon neutrality in core operations by 2025 and across the value chain by 2035, which are I would say something worth to be mentioned. And again, if you have the chance to go on internet, you could see the Yibin factory in Sichuan, which is quite impressive. And another thing I wanted to take about the challenges and opportunities, I wanted to bring it to innovation, because now we hear a lot of things about whether it's worth it or not to go to the transition to EV cars, whether they are good enough, and so on and so forth. And I would like to mention a few things about one technology that we have developed, which is the Killing battery, because I believe this is an example of high-level technology and innovation that is going to help us to embrace better circular economy. And why I'm mentioning this? Because this Killing battery that will go into the EVs, and already goes into the EVs in the Chinese market, it has a high energy density and range that could achieve more than 1,000 kilometers by one charge. And this is not something that we are testing in a laboratory and so on and so forth. No, this is something that is already there and is about to have a mass production, and it's already on mass production. It also has an utilization efficiency of 72%, which is pretty impressive. And last but not least, it has it could achieve a fast charging in just 10 minutes. So it could achieve like 80% of the whole capacity being charged in only 10 minutes, which is like very impressive. And this brings to the question of the point that you raised, which is like we're increasing our presence in Europe. We have 1/2 gigafactories in Germany, which we are like very, very happy, and another one that it's about to that it has already started to be built in Hungary and will be 100 gigawatts when it will get into the last phase. This is to say that we are very committed in the transition, in the green transition, and with our consumers, of course, in China, but also in the EU. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, for sharing. I think that's a great example how we see the innovation and technology really driving the circular economy development and help us to go further in this journey. And last, I will give the floor to Wenhua, share your point of view from the NGO perspective.
To promote the recycled metal industry, I think the current challenge is how to grow the industry in the context of a national or global shortage of scrap. In China, the share of recycled metal in total supply is still well below a global average. This is partly because it's going to take a few more years to build a stock of scrap domestically as more cars and equipments and home appliances reach the age of retirement. However, the Chinese government recently issued an action plan. Mr. San just mentioned that plan to promote the large-scale replacement and trade-in of equipment. This policy can effectively accelerate the process. And for example, the number of end-of-life cars is expected to double in the next 5 years, creating an opportunity for the industry to thrive. Another important area is that we really need to improve how scrap is collected, sorted, and reused. In many Chinese provinces, the recycling market is still dominated by small-scale recycling firms, where the sorting process is often done manually by hands without the support of machine. And as a consequence, the valuable metals, they are sometimes mixed up together, and which reduce the value of the end products made from the recycled materials. And China is in the process of modernizing its recycling system for metals, and through a number of initiatives, including urban mining. So with this policy, a key component will be to create a closed-loop recycling system for metal. A closed-loop system, a system allow different categories of metal, copper, aluminum, steel, to be produced and used and reused in the same utilization stream. And so they won't actually lose its valuable property, after several times, after times and times again recycling. With this produce and also reuse mechanism, this can save a lot of energy and also reduce the demand for raw material. There are some good practice out there already. For example, in China, the soda can, for example, increasingly being recycled in the same utilization stream, thanks to years of efforts by international and also Chinese beverage companies like PepsiCo. And so this is a good example, but I think that being said, there's still a lot to learn and also to exchange in terms of technologies, policy instruments, and also market-based mechanisms to truly enable circular economy to play a bigger role to decarbonize the Chinese industries.
Yeah, thank you, Wenhua, for your final point. Well, thank you all for your insightful sharing. We enjoyed it a lot, and we are almost on time. So to conclude, with China being the largest manufacturer and a great significant consumer market, China holds a pivotal role in advancing the circular economy agenda and also contributing to the global transformation effort. So we hope today's discussion will serve as a catalyst for driving increased collaboration and actions, both within China and globally. And to quote from yesterday, we need more actions now, and we need to turn circular vision into reality. Thank you for the panel. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Xiaoting. And
Yes.
I'll hand over the floor for the very final word to Mr. Zhao from the Chinese Association for Circular Economy. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Joyce. It's my great honor to make this closing notes as representative of CACE. First of all, many thanks to all of you for coming to this session on discussing the development of China's circular economy. I also want to give many thanks to the leaders of the National Development and Reform Commission of China, especially Mr. Zhao Chenxin, who also attend the meeting in person and make a wonderful opening speech. I also would like to thank CITRA, the WCEF organizer, and the EMF, NRDC, and other international organizations for their support. And many thanks to all the speakers this morning, including Director Showmaker and my boss, Mr. Zhu Liang. Thank you all so much. This section was very informative and impressive, I think. There were discussions about the policies, best practice, research findings, and the business models. I learned a lot of so successful meetings. I remembered in 2017, the first WCF was held in Helsinki of Finland. CACE was invited and organized a delegation of nearly 30 people to participate in the forum. And this year, as you can see, China attached great importance to the forum. There are also nearly 30 people of high-level delegations from the Chinese government, NDRC, as well as delegations from associations and enterprises. Moreover, this year's forum has also set up the special China session, which is of great significance. I hope that in the future, we can see more international cooperation on circular economy, not only between China and the EU, but also bilateral and multilateral circular economy cooperation, including US, UK, Japan, and other countries. Finally, I wish you all good health and good luck. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Zhao. I'd like to ask a final favor of all the speakers who presented today to come to the stage for a photo, please, if that's okay, and then we'll let you go on our way. Thank you for attending.